Most people who watched this moment only saw what happened on the stage. They did not see what had been hidden for 17 years. This is the story of a woman named Patricia, and the secret that nearly destroyed her family before it finally set them free. Patricia Chen was 53 years old. She had been married to her husband Robert for 31 years. They had 2 adult children, a daughter named Lisa, who was 28 and worked as a lawyer, and a son named David, who was 25 and was in medical school. By every measure, Patricia's life looked like a success. A successful marriage, successful children, a career as a high school teacher that she had maintained for 24 years. Every morning, Patricia woke up at 5:30. She showered. She made coffee. She prepared her lesson plans. She drove to school and taught American history to high school sophomores. She came home at 4. She made dinner. She asked her children about their days. She helped with David's medical school applications. She listened to Lisa talk about cases at her law firm. She was present. She was attentive. She was, by all appearances, a woman who had built a life and was living it fully. What no one knew was that Patricia was dying. Not in the way that sounds dramatic. She was not sick. Not in the way that shows up as a diagnosis. But she was dying in the way that a person dies, when they have been living a lie for so long that they have forgotten how to live in truth. 17 years earlier, when Lisa was 11 and David was 8, Patricia had made a choice. A choice that had seemed like the only choice at the time. A choice that had seemed like the right choice. But the weight of it had grown heavier every single year. Robert did not know. Her children did not know. Her closest friends did not know. Her therapist knew, but therapists are bound by confidentiality, and Patricia had paid for those sessions in cash, and Robert did not know that she had a therapist. Patricia had a sister. Her name was Catherine. Catherine lived in Portland. Patricia and Catherine had grown up together, had been close as children, but had drifted apart as adults do, especially when one sister stayed in the same city and the other moved across the country. Catherine knew the secret, because Catherine had been there when the choice was made. And Catherine had kept it secret for 17 years. What Patricia did not know was that Catherine was sick. Really sick. Stage 4 cancer. Catherine had found out 8 months before the Family Feud taping, and Catherine had decided not to tell Patricia. Because Catherine was going to die, and she did not want Patricia to have to carry her secret and Catherine's illness at the same time. But Catherine's illness was moving faster than Catherine had expected. Catherine had 6 months, maybe less. And Catherine did not want to die without her sister knowing the truth. So Catherine called Patricia one night in August. She called and she said, "I am sick. And I am going to die. And before I die, our family needs to know what really happened 17 years ago. Because you cannot carry this alone anymore. Because I will not let you carry this alone." Patricia cried. She said no. She said that the secret had to stay secret. She said that telling the truth would destroy her family. Catherine said, "The secret is already destroying your family. You are destroying yourself to keep it. And I am not going to let that happen." So Patricia, with Catherine's insistence, reached out to Family Feud. She submitted their family's application. She said that she wanted to be on the show, that she wanted her family to know something about her that they did not know, that she wanted, finally, for the secret to stop being a secret. The production team loved the idea. They did not know what the secret was, but they knew it was real. And they knew it was big. The taping was scheduled for 6 weeks later. Lisa came home from her apartment in the city. David took a week off from medical school. Robert was excited. He thought this would be fun. Patricia barely slept. The night before the taping, Patricia sat in her kitchen alone. It was 3 in the morning. Robert was sleeping. The house was quiet. And Patricia thought about the girl she had been at 36 years old. A girl who had made a choice in a moment of crisis. A girl who had loved her family so much that she had decided to love them in silence, in secrets, in the careful construction of a life that looked real but was built on a foundation of lies. She thought about Catherine, dying in Portland, holding Patricia accountable even at the end. She thought about Lisa and David, who would wake up tomorrow and go to a television studio and have their understanding of their mother fundamentally changed. The studio was bright and loud when the family arrived. Steve Harvey was there, moving through the green room, shaking hands, making people comfortable. When he got to Patricia's family, he spent extra time with Patricia. He asked her questions. She answered them carefully, trying not to reveal anything. He looked at her with a knowing expression. "You have something you want to say," he said. It was not a question. Patricia nodded. "Not yet," Steve said. "But soon." The game began like any other game. The set was bright. The audience was enthusiastic. Points were being scored. Robert was joking around. Lisa was clever with her answers. David was laughing. It was the family that everyone thought they knew. And then, in the second round, Steve Harvey asked a question that Patricia knew was not a random Family Feud question. She knew, somehow, that it had been chosen. The question was, name something important that you have never told your family. The room went very quiet. Robert looked at the board. The competing family looked at the board. The audience waited for an answer. Patricia raised her hand. "Patricia," Steve said, "do you have an answer?" Patricia stood up. Her legs were shaking. 17 years of keeping this secret had left her physically unable to stand without trembling. "Yes," she said. "Well, tell us," Steve said gently. Patricia looked at her husband. She looked at her daughter. She looked at her son. And then she spoke. 17 years ago, she said, I gave birth to a child, a son. His name was James, and I placed him for adoption. The studio fell completely silent, not the usual game show pause, a different kind of silence. The kind of silence that happens when the world shifts on its axis. Robert's face went blank. Lisa's mouth opened. David stood up. "You had another child?" Robert said. "Yes," Patricia said. She was crying now. The tears had been waiting 17 years. "I had another child when I was 36. Before you and I even met," she said, looking at Robert. No, that was not right. She corrected herself. "I had a child," she said, "when you were at a medical conference. Before we were married. Before any of this. I was pregnant, and I did not know what to do, and I was terrified, and I made the choice to place him for adoption. And I have spent the last 17 years of my life carrying that secret. Every single day, every single moment, I have carried it." Steve did not speak. He let the silence hold. Patricia continued. "My sister Catherine is dying," she said. "She has cancer, and she made me promise that before she died, I would tell you the truth. Because she said that I could not live a whole life while I was living a half-truth. And she was right." Lisa had tears running down her face. David was sitting down, processing. "I have spent 17 years wondering if he was okay," Patricia said. "I have spent 17 years thinking about his birthday every single year. I have spent 17 years carrying the weight of choosing to give my son away, and I have spent 17 years lying to the people I love about who I am." Robert stood up. He walked over to his wife, and without saying anything, he put his arms around her. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, not in anger, in confusion, in love. Because I was ashamed, Patricia said. Because I thought that if you knew, you would think less of me. Because I thought that if the children knew, they would think their mother was a person who gave away her own child. Because I was terrified, and the longer I kept it secret, the bigger it became. And now I cannot carry it anymore. But Steve wasn't done. He did not move toward Patricia. He stood at the podium, and he addressed the studio audience and the cameras. Everyone watching at home, he said, I want you to hear this. This woman spent 17 years carrying a secret because she was afraid of judgment. She spent 17 years believing that she had to hide who she was in order to be loved. And what she is learning right now, in this moment, is that she does not have to hide, that her truth does not make her less worthy of love, that her family is capable of holding her truth and still loving her. He looked at Patricia. Your sister Catherine, he said, made you come here so that you could stop dying, so that you could start living. Does that sound right? Patricia nodded, unable to speak. I want to do something, Steve said. He called a producer over and whispered something. The producer nodded and left the stage. Patricia, Steve said, we have contacted the adoption agency. We have found your son. The studio erupted. Not in applause, in gasps, in the sound of collective shock and collective hope. Patricia's knees gave out. She sat down hard on her chair. His name is James Mitchell, Steve continued. He is 35 years old. He is married. He has 2 children. He is a teacher like you, and he has been wondering about you his entire life. Is he here? Patricia whispered. He is here, Steve said. And then, from the wings of the stage, a man walked out. He was tall. He had Patricia's eyes. He had Patricia's face, 35 years younger than she had imagined it would be. Patricia stood up. She could not move. She could not speak. She could only stand and look at her son. James Mitchell, Steve said to the man, this is your mother. Her name is Patricia Chen, and she has been thinking about you every single day for 35 years. James walked directly to his mother. He did not hesitate. He wrapped his arms around her. And on the Family Feud stage, under the lights, with 300 people watching, a mother and son who had been separated before he was even born were reunited. The competing family was crying. The crew members were looking away to compose themselves. Robert was holding his wife's shoulder. Lisa and David were embracing their mother and their brother, a brother they had just learned existed. Steve let the moment breathe. He did not speak. The silence was sacred. Then he said, very quietly, welcome home, James. When the episode aired, 10 weeks later, it shattered every record. 17 million views in the first week. It trended globally. People everywhere started talking about adoption, about secrets, about the cost of shame. The viral moment, Patricia seeing her son for the first time, has been viewed over 32 million times. It has been used in adoption support groups, in therapist offices, in conversations between parents and children about honesty and love. What happened after the taping mattered more than the views. Patricia and James spent the whole day together after the show. They talked for 8 hours straight. She told him her story. He told her his. She learned that his adoptive parents had been kind, that they had told him he was loved, that he had grown up happy. He learned why she had made the choice she made, not out of rejection, but out of love, out of a desire to give him a better life than she could give him at 36, unmarried, terrified. 3 months after the episode aired, Patricia took a leave from teaching. She and James and his family took a trip together. They spent 2 weeks learning each other. Patricia met her grandchildren, James's 2 children, a girl aged 8 and a boy aged 6. She taught them about their family history. She sang them the lullabies that her own mother had sung to her. Catherine died 4 months after the taping. Patricia was with her. And Catherine died knowing that Patricia was no longer carrying the secret alone, that Patricia's family knew the truth, that Patricia was finally, after 17 years, free today. Patricia and James text every day. He calls her mom. She calls him her son. Not her adopted son, her son. David has a relationship with his brother. Lisa has a relationship with her brother. Robert loves James like he loves his own children. Patricia returned to teaching. She now also volunteers with an adoption support organization, helping women who are struggling with placing their children for adoption, helping women understand that they can survive this choice, that they can carry it, that they do not have to carry it alone. Patricia gave an interview a year after the taping. When asked what that moment had meant, she was quiet for a long time. "I spent 17 years believing that my truth was too big to share," she said. "I spent 17 years believing that I had to hide to be loved. And my sister Catherine, even as she was dying, forced me to understand that the opposite was true. That my truth is what connects me to the people I love. That my truth is what makes me human. That I have always known how to love my family well. And my family has always known how to love me well. We just needed to do it in the light instead of in the dark." Today, every year on James's birthday, Patricia's entire family gathers together. Robert and Patricia, Lisa and David, James and his wife, James's children. And they celebrate the day that Patricia gave birth to her son, the day that she loved him enough to choose a different path for him, the day that her courage in placing him for adoption became the thing that eventually brought them all back together. If this story about the power of truth and the courage it takes to stop hiding moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to know that the secrets we carry are often lighter than we think, and that the people we love are more capable of accepting our truth than we believe. Have you ever been afraid to tell someone the truth about who you are? Have you ever discovered that honesty strengthened a relationship instead of breaking it? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more moments that restore your faith in humanity.